Principal of Margaret L. Wisdom High School in Houston Independent School District. Carla Prieto from Fong and Associates and an adjunct professor at Thurgood Marshall School of Law. Robert Gallegos, a Houston City Council member. And Jose Luis Ambris, who is an entrepreneur and an undocumented immigrant. Our first three speakers will cover the economic impacts of SB4 on specific industries and diverse business communities. Okay. Right now. Okay, so trato de hablar en español también, pero mi español no es perfecto. Entonces, hoy vamos a hablar de SB4, es una ley que es muy peligroso, no solamente a los hispanos en nuestra comunidad, pero a todos los tejanos. Y vamos a escuchar de muchas voces de la comunidad, de empresas, de educadores y de inmigrantes. So our first three speakers will cover the economic impacts of SB4 on specific industries and diverse business communities in Houston. Our next two speakers will cover the intersection between SB4's devastating effects on families and youth and jobs through implications for our youth and in schools and trainees in higher education. The subsequent speaker will touch upon how the negative impacts of SB4 on business and immigrants in Houston will not be tolerated. And our final speaker will share his story about the economic opportunity and security for immigrants that lay vulnerable to SB4. Let's begin with our first speaker, Mr. Paul Puente, who is a board member of Houston First and executive secretary of the Houston Gulf Coast Building and Construction Trades Council.
Thank you and good morning. Again, my name is Paul Puente. I'm the executive secretary for the Houston Gulf Coast Building and Construction Trades Council. I'm also a board member that's appointed by the mayor and council of this great city. And, you know, I wanted to make sure that we stood with the mayor in opposition of this bill. And the economic impact that it has on this city that we all belong to. My family belongs to my kids. We want to make sure that this city strives and it moves forward. Bills like this impact our community as we welcome individuals from other countries into the city. Economically, we want to make sure that they feel welcome. We've invested money in Mexico to ensure that they feel welcome coming here. They spend over $2 million of their hard-earned money visiting this city. And on average, $1,500 per person when they come visit our city, which is way more than what we spend when we go to theirs. But we want to make sure that we also stand with the mayor and city council in opposition of this bill. And as you can see, how this city has impacted our great nation. So, thank you.
Thank you. Again, that was Mr. Paul Puente, a board member of Houston First and executive secretary of the Houston Gulf Coast Building and Construction Trades Council. SB4 is already having a chilling effect on the Texas economy, particularly the major convention and tourism industries. The convention industry already has received cancellations or threats to cancel future meetings in Texas, specifically because of SB4. This does not include cancellation threats related to bathroom bills. The major organizations that have decided to bypass Texas include the American Immigration Lawyers Association with more than 3,000 attendees, the Association of American Law Schools with 600 educators, the National Hispanic Caucus of State Legislators with 200 attendees, and the International Society for Technology and Education has recently advised Visit San Antonio that it is considering relocating its 2021 and 2025 conferences because of SB4 and the pending bathroom bill. ISTE brings more than 20,000 people to Texas, plus more than 500 exhibiting companies, including many Fortune 500 companies and startups. Houston has now been cited by a number of metrics as the most diverse city in the country. Our next two speakers emphasize how SB4 hurts our ethnic business communities. Dr. Laura Murillo joins us from the Houston Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
My thanks. Councilmember Gallegos, thank you for joining us here today on this very important matter. As we know, our economy is at the forefront here, not only in this city, but in this country. Given all of the political rhetoric and attacks we've seen at the national level, it is incumbent upon Texas to serve as a leader. Now more than ever, we must lead this country as one of inclusive and welcoming of immigrants who contribute anywhere between $9 billion to Texas to $12 billion. Our economy, our pocketbooks depend on immigrants. It is the right thing to do. It is a thing that Texas should lead. And our governor, our lieutenant governor, and our leadership in Texas must in fact speak on behalf and represent those who've given so much to this country, to Texas, to make it what it is today. On behalf of the Houston Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, we urge the business community to step up, to lead, to defend those who cannot speak for themselves, who every day contribute to this country on many levels, including on a financial level, which has kept Texas strong over the years. So let us remember that. Let us remember that this impacts our pocketbooks. And if you are not moved from a moral standpoint because it is the right thing to do, then follow your pocketbook. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, that was Dr. Laura Murillo. This brings us to our third speaker, Neka Stefania Achapu, the CEO of the U.S. Bilateral African Chamber of Commerce and a successful Nigerian businesswoman here in Houston.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Neka Achapu, and I'm the Executive Director of the U.S. Bilateral African Chamber of Commerce. We stand here today in support of our Latino brothers and sisters, our Asians. All races are involved in this SB4, and that's why, as an African, as a Nigerian, I'm here today to support the opposition against SB4. How is this affecting everyone and not just Latinos? Everyone who comes here into this country as an immigrant has to go through so many things, and SB4 is just going to worsen our situation as immigrant. And I'm sorry. I strongly believe that this is not only going to impact the way we continue living in this great city, but how we work. Going to work is going to be scary once police stop us and ask for papers, when it could be, there'll be racial profiling. So we need to get together, all of us, not just Latinos, and support the opposition against SB4. We're all united. We are here to make this city a better city, and we can't do it without our immigrant force. Therefore, as Africans and everyone else, we are in support to oppose SB4. Thank you very much.
Thank you again. That was Neka Stefania Achapu with the U.S. Bilateral African Chamber of Commerce. There are nearly 70,000 Korean Americans in Texas, about 13,000 of whom live in the greater Houston area. 1 in 7 Korean Americans is undocumented. So we also very much are affected by the atrocity that is SB4. I say we with some hesitation, because despite how I appear, when people ask me where I am from, my answer is invariably Texas. The critical point here is that SB4 is not a Hispanic problem. SB4 is not a Nigerian problem. SB4 is not a Korean problem. SB4 is a Texas problem. Immigrants and citizens alike in Texas seek the opportunities that give our lives meaning. From youth in the age of SB4, for youth in the age of SB4, that process of discovering those opportunities is ravaged. Our next two speakers are educators who petition our elected officials to save our Texas in order to save our jobs. First, we have Principal Jonathan Wintren of Margaret L. Wisdom High School in Houston Independent School District to share his perspective.
Good morning. You know, as an educator for 24 years, I stand on the side and I just say, you know what, just teach the kids. Teach the kids, educate them, and everything will be okay. And as we move forward now, in the last few years, I see a lot of rhetoric. And it's to the point now where it makes no common sense anymore. I'll speak not just from the side of the right thing to do, but also the cost. We are, as educators, are required by law to educate every student regardless of their background. We spend billions of dollars per year, annually, doing that. Our school population is about 1,900 students. 60% of them are ESLs. We are the largest comprehensive high school, the largest ESL population for a comprehensive high school that I know of in the state of Texas. So with that being said, the same people that vote for this law, which is the right thing to do with the right heart to educate every child, are now, for some reason with politics, emotions, and these are good folks, don't get me wrong. They believe in what they do and they think they're doing what's right. The same people that think it's right to make sure that every kid get educated are now voting to basically spend billions of dollars to deport them. What common sense logic is that? It makes no sense if you operate a company or any businesses and you invest in your worker billions of dollars, you're not going to let them walk out that door or even help them move out that door. You will do everything you can to retain them. These are highly educated students now. They're going to be adults. So my question is that let's put the rhetoric aside and use common sense and say, okay, you know what? We invest the money already. Let's get something back in return for it. On the emotional end, this thing. Every day, our teachers, our administrator deals with the heartache of parents and students working hard. It's not what you saw on TV or what some people have an angle to tell you. They work hard, 2 jobs a day. 10 people in a 1-bedroom apartment making ends meet to try to make sure that their children had that future, like my parents did when they decided to escape Vietnam in 1978, to make sure that we find that freedom and the opportunity and willing to risk the entire family's life out there in the ocean to make it. So my question is this. Parents want the best for the kids. They're here now. The cost of billions of dollars to deport them make no sense. Let's find a right solution now to incorporate them and make them into our society to make sure that they benefit from every immigrant since the inception of this country to be successful. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, that was Principal Jonathan Wintren of Margaret L. Wisdom High School in HISD. This brings us to our 5th speaker, Carla Prieto from Fong & Associates. She is also an adjunct professor at the Thurgood Marshall School of Law. She will share how SB 4 affects our institutions of higher learning.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. Buenos días, buenas tardes a todos. I am an immigration attorney. I've been practicing for many years and have been doing this since, I've been in this field since 1993. The first thing that I wanted to share with everyone is that the level of fear and panic, which is quite justified, is pretty palpable and it's incredibly sad. What we have seen since approximately January is a level of fear that is heartbreaking. And as immigration attorneys, we are many times with our hands tied. There isn't a whole lot that the law allows us to do for our clients. Contrary to what you see in the news or to what many people choose to see in the news, immigrants create jobs, immigrants inject the community with diversity, with all kinds of benefits. here in Houston, as a proud Houstonian, I think one of the best things about Houston is that diversity. And the reason why I wanted to talk about fear today, in part, is because I think when we're talking to others, when we're trying to reach out to others and educate them, it's important to mention that even if you're not undocumented, even if you don't know anyone who's undocumented, this is a law that's going to affect us all. We have chiefs of police from the 4 largest cities telling our governor that this law is actually going to erode the trust that is so necessary between law enforcement and the community. And they've already seen a drop in the number of crimes that are reported. And it's not because less crimes are being committed, it's because people are terrified. So I ask that you please, when you're talking to other people, share links, hit them from all directions. As one of my fellow speakers said before, if you can't understand this from the humanitarian and the moral point of view, think about it from other points of view. Think about it from the fact that we are all less safe because of this law. Yes. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. That was Carla Prieto from Fong & Associates and adjunct professor at Thurgood Marshall School of Law. The economic effects of SB4 on businesses and our youth will weigh heavily on our city. Council member Robert Gallegos has joined us today to speak to this.
Buenos días. Soy Robert Gallegos, concejal del Distrito I. Primero quiero decir y darle las gracias a la mayoría de mis colegas en el Council de la ciudad de Houston que votaron la mayoría para participar en la demanda contra SB4. Again, I just want to say, again, my name is Robert Gallegos. I represent District I. And I want to first thank Houston First for hosting this event here. How appropriate to have it here along Avenida Las Americas, here along the bollards that represent all the countries in the Americas. Houston First and the city of Houston know the importance and the pride that we have because of our diversity. Of course, we're the largest city in the state of Texas, but not only that, we're the most diverse city in the nation. And we got to take advantage of that and the benefits of that. I was proud to lead the charge at City Council a few weeks ago, where a majority of my colleagues voted in favor of joining the lawsuit against SB4. As has been said before, SB4 will expose Houstonians to violations of due process. It'll erode trust between the police and the public and takes local public safety decisions out of the hands of locally elected officials that our constituents voted for. In an open letter sent to the legislature and governor in May, before the law was passed, the chiefs of police of every major city in the state, and I repeat, every major city in the state, warned that this law will damage the relationship between the police and communities of color. People will stop trusting the police, reporting crimes, and victims will refuse to serve as witnesses. We have already begun to see results of the Hispanic community's mistrust of police because of the anti-Hispanic rhetoric spewed by our leaders in Washington. According to HPD data, since the beginning of this year, the number of Hispanics reporting violent crimes has been on decline, while the number of non-Hispanics reporting crime has increased. The number of Hispanics reporting rape has dropped by 43%, robberies by 12%, assaults by 12%. The numbers speak for themselves. Can you imagine what will happen once this law goes into effect, if it goes into effect on September 1st? I represent nearly 180,000 constituents in my council district. 80% are Hispanic, and many are uncertain of how this law will affect them and whether they should begin carrying their U.S. passports ready to prove their legal status. The city of Houston is a majority-minority city. 44% of our residents are Hispanic, 20% are black, and 6% are Asian. Should all of them be prepared to start carrying their passports? As I have said numerous times before, SB4 is dangerous and targets communities of color. And we should continue our fight to stop this unconstitutional law. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, that was Councilmember Robert Gallegos. We thank him and the Houston City Council for supporting the SB4 fight through the courts and remain very hopeful that we can create municipal policies that will keep targeted communities safe in the wake of this law. Here, we would also like to acknowledge our allies in the fight against SB4 in Harris County, Commissioner Rodney Ellis, who was unable to join us today, but I think has sent a representative. And also our allies in the Texas State Legislature, including Senator Sylvia Garcia, who also was unable to join us today but has sent a representative. Our final speaker is Jose Luis Ambriz, an entrepreneur and undocumented immigrant who reminds us that while the practical impacts of SB4 on business and our workforce are critically important, the real story, as it is and always should be, is the human story.
Bueno, ¿qué es lo que les puedo decir yo? Como todos sabemos ahora, nosotros proveemos un gran adelanto para la construcción. Es algo muy bueno para que hemos aprovechado la gente que necesita de nosotros, paga un poco menos. No nos dan mucha oportunidad.
So he wants to. So pretty much we provide a lot of support as far as construction, and we are a great asset in that field.
Exactamente. Y ahora con estas medidas que se han tomado nos ha sido almost imposible de poder hacer nuestros trabajos.
And with these measures that have been taken, it has gone even more impossible for us to be able to do our jobs.
Porque ahora tenemos menos.
Because now we have less work or less opportunities.
De hecho, hemos tratado de hacer nuestros trabajos mejor y en más poco tiempo.
And we've even, in response to that, we've even tried to make our jobs, the work that we do better and in less time.
Y como dije ahora con esto que ha pasado, nos va a ser un poco más difícil de poder alimentar nuestras familias.
And now with everything that's going on, it's going to be even harder for us to feed our families.
Por eso quiero que nos den la oportunidad.
That's why we would like the opportunity.
Y que nos ayuden para que esto no pase.
And to help us so that this doesn't happen.
En favor de todas las familias inmigrantes que tenemos aquí, que somos muchas.
In the name of all the immigrant families that are here, which we are a lot.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you. Again, that was Jose Luis Ambriz, a small business owner and undocumented immigrant. We ask small businesses in Texas, national meeting planners, professional sports organizations, artists, and local, regional, and state governments to work with our community to repeal SB4 by committing to visible sanctions on hate through various calls to action, which will be available shortly on the Texas Together website. As you may have gathered over the last several months, there are many actors outside our city, including at the level of our county governments in some cases, our governor and lieutenant governor, who failed to understand the profound consequences of SB4 on the economic security and the social welfare of our people. Ultimately, the only way to change that long term is by transforming the narrative and building community as we have today in coalition with so many of you. Please join us as we close with a fantastic tribute to each and all of us with Amanda Liu.
This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters, this land was made for you and me. As I went walking that Ribnov highway, I saw above me that endless skyway, and saw below me that golden valley. This land was made for you and me. When the sun comes shining, then I was strolling in the wheat fields waving and dust clouds rolling. The voice was chanting as the fog was lifting. This land was made for you and me. Again. This land was made for you and me. One more time. This land was made for you and me.
Thank you, Amanda. This now takes us to our question and answer portion of our press conference. Please state your name and media outlet as well as the expert to whom your question is directed. Yes.
Hi, I'm Al Ortiz from Houston Public Media News 88.7. So there's a lot of numbers in the press kit that you gave us. I wanted to ask you specifically, there's a section that says if 10% of the documented immigrants leave the state, Texas will lose $190 million in federal taxes and $122.3 million in taxes, in state or local taxes. That would be taxes that wouldn't be paid, correct?
Right, exactly.
People have left.
Exactly.
Okay. And is that projection, I mean, most of these numbers are, or these projections, are they based on what happened in Arizona after?
Right. So they had a 10 to 15% decline in the number of non-citizen Hispanics there in the state as a function of SB 1070. So they're using what numbers we have in Texas as far as our census numbers. They're using that as a projection for what would happen in Texas.
But I mean, kind of playing the devil's advocate here, but don't you think that could be a little bit of a stretch? I mean, one thing is what happened over there. We don't know if that's going to happen here.
Right, but empirically, that's all the data that we have. So I mean, I think it's a reasonable estimate that could happen here. Yeah. Yes.
Thanks to Dios Innovation.
Sure.
Una pregunta en español para concejal Gallegos.
Sí.
Concejal, tú como una autoridad, un hispano que ha llegado tan lejos a ocupar un puesto tan importante en la ciudad de Houston, ¿cómo te sientes en este momento de saber que están luchando nuevamente con otra ley que pareciera ser que es una ley anti-inmigrante? Tú vienes de familia con inmigrantes, también ¿cómo sientes esta lucha?
Yo siento orgulloso que luché en el concejal y gané la mayoría de mis colegas para votar en favor de participar en la demanda. Mi mamá y mi papá eran inmigrantes, vinieron de México. Yo soy el más joven de 7. Todos mis hermanos y mi hermana nacieron aquí en los Estados Unidos. Todos están trabajando. Los hijos y las hijas de ellos están trabajando, están participando en esta economía, pero la cosa es que mi papá y mi mamá vinieron de México. Pero estamos luchando, estamos trabajando, estamos ayudando a esta economía y por eso yo estoy orgulloso que estoy luchando para estar seguro que vamos a ganar contra ese SB4 y por eso yo estoy aquí con todos que estamos aquí esta mañana.
¿Te duele ver que la gente, los políticos a veces no toman en cuenta el trabajo tan fuerte que hacen los inmigrantes?
Sí, por ejemplo, puedes salir aquí en las calles del centro. Los inmigrantes están trabajando en esos edificios, los inmigrantes están trabajando en el George R. Brown, están trabajando en el Hotel Américas, están trabajando en el Marquis, en los hoteles aquí en Houston. Son los inmigrantes. Y sin ellos, ¿cómo va a ser el día sin el inmigrante? y por eso estamos aquí luchando para estar seguro que esta ley no se va a pasar comenzando en el 1 de septiembre. Y por eso otra vez estoy orgulloso que mis colegas, la mayoría, votamos para participar en la demanda contra SB4. Gracias.
I'm sorry, I'm just going to take a minute. From my mother's side, I'm first-generation immigrant. This is my land. From my father's side, I can trace my ancestors in Texas 5 generations. They have been in Texas since the 1700s. This is about racial profiling. This is about Texans. Donna Murphy is a PhD in neurology. You would look at her, and that would be racial profiling. Laura Murillo is a PhD, and you would look at her and ask her for her documentation. This is about dignity. This is about respect. But this is about the Texas values that are not being adhered by our leaders. We are Texans. This is America. This is our land. SB4 is not good for Texas. It is not good for America. We are here all together representing. It is not an undocumented problem. This is our problem. This is your problem. And together we are going to fight against SB4. En español. Perdón. A ver. De parte de mi madre, soy la primera generación aquí en los Estados Unidos. De parte de mi padre, mi familia ha estado aquí en Texas desde 5 generaciones, de 1700 en el estado de Texas. Este país es nuestro país. Y este problema de SB4 no es un problema solamente para las personas indocumentadas, no, es un problema de todos, porque Texas es una ciudad, un estado que representa diversas minorías. Tenemos personas como la señora Donna Murphy, ella tiene un PhD. La señora Laura Murillo también, PhD. O sea, estamos educados. Y lo que significa SB4 contra nuestra comunidad es un insulto de nuestra gente, porque todos nosotros estamos representados y todos tenemos el riesgo de tener el perfil racial. Y no son los valores de América, y esos no son los valores de Texas. I'm sorry, Ana Núñez, N-U-N-E-Z, Ana Núñez.
En ese sentido, también yo quería decir algunas palabras sobre ese problema. Lo vamos a hacer en español. Ese problema de SB4 nos afecta a todos, no solamente a los hispanos, también a los africanos, a los asiáticos, todas las personas que viven aquí en Houston, que son inmigrantes, van a ser afectadas a este problema. Entonces es muy importante que todos trabajamos juntos, todos, africanos, hispanos, porque es muy importante, eso nos va a afectar mucho. Entonces, aquí voy a preguntar a todos los hermanos y hermanas hispanas que nos ayuden a nosotros, los africanos, a ser más activos en nuestra política, porque eso nos va a afectar a todos. Gracias.
Any other questions?
I have a question about the legislature is holding a special session, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Do you plan to mobilize in any way by, for instance, going to Austin or trying to contact lawmakers by email, phone?
Yes.
What's the game plan with that?
Yeah, so the initiative, the Texas Works Together initiative with the Texas Together and RITA, which is a campaign by RITA, that focus is predominantly on business and the economic impacts of SB4. And as part of that initiative, we are encouraging all of the members of our coalitions across the state to reach out to businesses in their communities to have them kind of come on board with us, just in the same way that businesses for LGBTQ discrimination in the Texas Competes campaign banded together to get rid of these kinds of laws, or to lobby against these kinds of laws. So we're going to do that with small businesses. We are reaching out to local, regional, and state governments across the country to see if they will come on board to consider banning state-sponsored travel, city-sponsored travel, regional government-sponsored travel to our state. The state of California has already passed a state-sponsored travel ban that was on or with reference to or citing HB 3859, I believe, which is the right to religious refusal, so LGBTQ discrimination. We are actively reaching out through Lawyers for Good Government to see if the state of California will add SB4 for their reasons for boycotting travel here. And already we're seeing impacts of that. One of the conferences that we were in discussions with, a major academic conference that was supposed to come here, that will still be coming but will likely never come back if we continue with laws like these. A good number of their members come from California, and they are now not able to come to their meeting in Dallas. So yeah, I think there are multiple efforts happening on these kind of business/economic fronts to fight this.
And also, if I may, of course, one of the main messages that you seem to want to convey is the negative effect on tourism for Houston,
right?
Because of the law. And there are there are 4 groups listed here that have either canceled having an event here or have said they might cancel it.
So those are statewide. Okay. Those cancellations, right?
Oh, it's statewide.
They're statewide, right?
Okay. And do you know if these 4 have already confirmed they have canceled?
Yes.
Yes. They might do it.
Yes, they have. They've canceled, except for ISTE, who is talking to Visit San Antonio about potentially canceling, but they haven't confirmed yet. Yes. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Oh, sure.
Okay. In that same vein of talking about the hostility that is sort of palpable and the feeling of being unwelcome. In Houston, we're very proud of our medical center. People come from all over the world for our medical center. And it's not very difficult to find out that we try to attract the best from all over the world. And this kind of unwelcome feeling affects that as well. Right. And so it affects us all in so many ways. So please consider that. Please talk to your friends about that. It's kind of across the board.
Yeah, I guess I should probably mention, so I'm also a physician, which I didn't mention at any point, but it's relevant here because there are a number of people who are not, as far as the training goes in the Texas Medical Center, I trained at Baylor College of Medicine, and we have programs that draw students from all over the country. Baylor College of Medicine is a very, highly regarded institution for training physicians. And a lot of those programs are now seeing a drop in the number of people who are coming from outside of the state because of this kind of antagonistic atmosphere that we've created, or our legislators in Austin have created. This is also true for faculty recruitment and retention. I know, talking to some of my colleagues at Rice University, they're also seeing similar problems. People who are going to Canada, to other parts of the United States. And we can't have top-tier institutions if we continue to do this. And people are just appalled by what's going on here, and they're not coming anymore. So those are real problems. The other thing I should mention as a physician is that we see, and I've mentioned this a couple of times, I think at City Council, I mentioned it in Harris County Commissioner's Court, I've mentioned it, we see a decline in the people who come to clinic appointments. The number of people who are turning in their WIC cards because of fear that they will be tracked in government registries is astounding. The Harris County Public Health Department is dealing with that now. This is relevant for the economy because ultimately these are social determinants of health, and they affect the ability of people to contribute in a meaningful way to the economy. Again, I want to recenter, this narrative. It's not just how much the immigrants do for us, it's how much they're able to do for themselves. That I think we have to be attentive to. I mean, it's respectful of the humanity of every person in the state. Anyway, that's the last thing I wanted to say. If there are no other questions, okay, sure.
Very rhetorical, but what you are urging is a repeal of the law, not tweaking it or anything.
Right, just completely repealing it, yes.
Thank you.
SB4 has to go.
SB4 has to go. SB4 has to go.
SB4 has to go.
SB4 has to go. SB4 has to go. SB4 has to go. SB4 has to go.
Thank you.
Again, I'd like to thank all of our speakers for joining us today to ask our representatives in Austin to save our jobs, save our Texas, and repeal SB4. I'd also like to thank the members of the press today who carry the critically important message to our communities and to our elected officials. Thank you very much.